Senior, science confirms the 3 worst foods for arthritis. By 2050, nearly 1 billion people will be living with osteoarthritis, the most common form of arthritis worldwide. That's 1 out of every 6 adults over the age of 30, silently coping with daily pain, stiffness, and swelling in their joints. This staggering projection comes from a 2023 study led by the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, published in The Lancet Rheumatology. The researchers analyzed data from more than 200 countries over a 30-year span, and what they found was alarming. Back in 1990, there were 256 million cases of osteoarthritis. By 2020, that number had climbed to 595 million, a 132% increase. Arthritis is no longer just an inconvenience of age. It's becoming a global epidemic. But here's the hopeful part. While we can't stop aging, we can make smarter choices that reduce inflammation, protect our joints, and slow the disease down. One of the most powerful changes? The food we eat. In this video, we're going to look at 3 common foods that can quietly worsen arthritis symptoms. All of it is backed by real science, and if you'd like to read the full studies, you'll find the links in the video description below. And before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps others discover this support when they need it most. Now, let's begin. Food number 1. Processed meat. Processed meat is one of the most powerful drivers of chronic inflammation inside the human body. When you eat bacon, sausage, ham, or cold cuts, you're not just feeding yourself protein. You're also flooding your system with a combination of preservatives, saturated fat, advanced glycation end products, and nitrates, and these substances act like fuel to a smoldering fire in your joints. Let's break it down. One of the key problems is a group of chemical messengers called pro-inflammatory cytokines, especially interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha. These molecules are like alarm signals sent out by the immune system. When they're overproduced, the body begins attacking its own tissues, including the soft, cushion-like cartilage inside your joints. Over time, this leads to pain, stiffness, and the slow erosion of joint function. Another red flag is something called CRP, C-reactive protein, a well-known blood marker for systemic inflammation. People with high CRP levels often experience more severe arthritis symptoms, and processed meat has been shown to push CRP levels higher. But what causes this immune response in the first place? The answer lies partly in your gut. Processed meat alters the balance of your gut microbiota, the trillions of bacteria that live in your digestive system and help regulate inflammation. When harmful bacteria take over, the gut lining weakens. This allows tiny toxic particles from food to leak into the bloodstream, a condition scientists call leaky gut, triggering widespread inflammation that often settles in the joints. Now here's what the science says. In a comprehensive 2023 review published in the journal Foods, researcher Jingjing Pan and colleagues summarized the evidence linking processed meat with systemic inflammation. Their work compiled findings from over 90 scientific studies and clearly explained how diets high in processed meat increase levels of IL-6, TNF-alpha, and CRP. The review also pointed to gut microbiome disruption as a key mechanism behind these effects. The conclusion was clear. Regular consumption of processed meat may increase the risk and severity of chronic inflammatory diseases, including arthritis. For older adults, these effects show up in subtle but painful ways. You may notice that your knees feel puffy after a salty meal, or that your fingers ache more the morning after a big holiday dinner with ham or sausage. Many people write it off as age, but your diet may be playing a bigger role than you think. So how do you protect yourself? First, try to limit processed meats, not eat in daily meals. If you're used to having bacon every morning or deli meat sandwiches for lunch, consider swapping them out 2 or 3 days a week. Grilled chicken, Roasted turkey or baked fish are great alternatives, especially when prepared at home with minimal seasoning. You don't have to become vegetarian overnight, but the more you shift away from heavily processed meats, the more relief your joints may begin to feel. And what about meat substitutes? This is where things get interesting. A 2021 article in Advanced Science by Baumkamp and colleagues explored the development of cultivated meat, also known as lab-grown meat, and its potential to reduce both environmental impact and health risks associated with conventional meat. While cultivated meat isn't widely available yet, it's being designed to deliver the texture and nutrition of meat without the inflammatory byproducts of industrial processing. Another 2022 paper published in Biomaterials supported this by examining how bioengineered scaffolding can mimic the structure of real muscle without needing nitrates, smoke flavoring, or additives. Of course, cultivated meat is still a future option, but right now, your best bet is simplicity. Choose fresh over packaged. Choose whole cuts over cold cuts. Choose meals you can recognize, rather than those filled with ingredients you can't pronounce. Because when it comes to your joints, every small decision matters, and removing processed meat from your regular diet could be the quiet turning point that helps you walk easier, sleep deeper, and live with less pain. Food number 2. Sugar and high glycemic foods. Sugar is one of the most powerful hidden triggers of joint damage. Every time you eat a food rich in refined sugar or with a high glycemic index, like soda, candy, sweetened juice, or white bread, your blood sugar rises sharply. That spike might feel harmless, but inside your body, it sets off a series of reactions that quietly wear down your joints, day by day. At the heart of this damage is a molecule called glucose. When there's too much of it in your blood, glucose begins to stick to proteins, especially collagen, the protein that makes cartilage soft and elastic. This sticky reaction creates harmful compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. Think of AGEs like little shards of sugar glass attaching to your cartilage. They make it stiff, brittle, and far more likely to crack or erode under pressure. The smooth cushion in your knees and fingers turns dry and fragile, and over time, every step or grip becomes more painful. But the damage doesn't stop at collagen. AGEs also trigger your immune system to release chemical messengers, especially interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor alpha, and C-reactive protein. These are key players in the kind of low-grade chronic inflammation that drives osteoarthritis. And when these inflammatory markers rise, your joints feel it. More swelling, more stiffness, and a slower ability to heal. This entire cascade has been documented in multiple scientific studies. In 2022, researchers Weber, Long, Ziemel, and Kindler published a review in Current Osteoporosis Reports showing that high blood sugar levels impair the activity of osteoblasts, the very cells that build healthy bone. They found that excess glucose disrupts bone formation, weakens collagen structure, and increases fracture risk. Their research also pointed out a long-term danger. People who develop type 2 diabetes early in life, what's known as youth-onset T2D, may never achieve full peak bone mass. That means their skeleton is weaker from a young age, setting the stage for earlier and more severe arthritis symptoms. Also in 2022, a large review published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health concluded that dietary sugar, especially from sugary drinks, significantly raises levels of CRP, IL-6, and TNF-alpha. The researchers noted that these inflammatory signals often rise just hours after consuming sugar, showing how quickly the damage can begin, even before symptoms appear. Another key piece of the puzzle comes from the molecular side. A study published in Drug Bank explains how AGEs accumulate in connective tissue and impair the normal function of collagen. These sugar-modified proteins become stiff and resistant to repair. Over time, This creates a fragile joint environment that's far more vulnerable to wear and tear. So how do you protect yourself? First, replace daily soda or juice with sparkling water, unsweetened teas, or just plain water with a squeeze of lemon. Choose whole fruits instead of juice because the fiber helps slow down sugar absorption and keeps your blood sugar stable. Swap white bread and pastries for whole grains, which release glucose more slowly. And if you enjoy desserts, try saving them for special occasions or pairing them with protein or fat, like a piece of dark chocolate after a meal with nuts or avocado, to reduce the glycemic impact. Sugar doesn't need to disappear from your life, but if you can reduce it, even just a little each day, your joints will thank you. Food number 3, fried and processed foods. Fried foods and ultra-processed meals may taste comforting, but inside your body, they set off a slow-burning storm that wears down your joints from the inside out. The problem begins with a group of compounds called advanced glycation end products, AGEs for short. These AGEs form when food is cooked at high temperatures, especially when fried, grilled, or roasted until crispy. They also come pre-formed in many processed items like frozen dinners, packaged snacks, and fast food meals. Once these AGEs enter your bloodstream, they don't just float around. They attach themselves to collagen, the soft protein scaffolding that supports your joints, cartilage, and ligaments. Over time, they make this collagen stiffer, more brittle, and prone to tiny cracks. As your joints bend, twist, and carry weight, these damaged fibers can no longer absorb impact smoothly. But that's just the start. These AGEs also trigger a receptor in your body called RAGE, quite literally the receptor for advanced glycation end products. When this receptor is activated, it sends danger signals to your immune system, which then releases a wave of inflammatory chemicals like IL-6, TNF-alpha, and CRP. These are the same chemicals doctors often find elevated in people with chronic joint inflammation. In 2023, a review published in Geroscience by researchers at Leiden University Medical Center confirmed that dietary AGEs, especially from fried and processed foods, directly contribute to joint degeneration and chronic low-grade inflammation. The authors warned that continuous intake of these compounds reduces the body's ability to repair cartilage and may accelerate the structural breakdown of joints as we age. The more AGEs you consume, the more you feed this invisible fire inside your body. But that's not the only concern. Another layer of damage happens in your muscles, particularly the ones that surround and stabilize your knees. In 2024, a team from the Radiological Society of North America presented imaging evidence showing that people who eat more ultra-processed foods have higher levels of fat trapped inside their thigh muscles. And this happened even in people who weren't overweight or sedentary. This type of fat, called intramuscular fat, weakens the muscle's ability to support joints, making movements less stable and increasing pressure on the knee with every step. Over time, that extra pressure can speed up wear and tear, leading to earlier onset of osteoarthritis, especially in people already at risk. What makes these foods so damaging is the way they're made. Most ultra-processed meals are filled with additives, artificial flavors, and synthetic stabilizers. They often contain refined oils, preservatives, and high levels of sugar or salt, ingredients that trigger both metabolic stress and inflammatory responses in the body. And because they're engineered to be hyper-palatable, they override your natural hunger cues, making you eat more than you need without even noticing. The good news is, change doesn't have to be extreme. You can start by gently shifting the way you cook. Instead of frying, try baking or steaming. If you love crispy textures, use the oven with a bit of olive oil instead of deep frying. Limit the frequency of frozen and microwavable meals, even if they look healthy on the package. Prepare simple meals at home using whole ingredients like fresh vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and lean meats. Keep your pantry stocked with real food, not just food-like products. If you need a place to start, try this. For 1 week, cook your main meals at home using ingredients with 5 or fewer components. Replace any frozen fried item with a homemade version using the oven. Swap packaged breakfast cereals with steel-cut oats or an egg with vegetables. Each choice like this helps reduce the AGEs in your body and calms down the chronic inflammation that feeds joint pain. Your joints don't just respond to medication or exercise, they respond to every meal. And by understanding what fried and processed foods do at the cellular level, you can begin feeding your body not just to satisfy hunger, but to restore balance, ease, and strength. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end of the video. I hope today's gentle yet science-backed insights gave you a clearer, more empowering view of your joint health. If you found this helpful, please give it a like to support the channel, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss future videos made just for you. Wishing you steady steps, restful sleep, and delicious meals that bring healing every day. See you in the next video.